I respect, textbook learning. I respect, going to school and degrees, but I definitely think that there's a lot to be said about actually experiencing the transactions, actually experiencing making something or being part of the process of building. I really, really do think that my sister she's cheering me on, and oh my God, she's so proud of me. She knows that I didn't forget any of the lessons that she taught me. She knows that I'm using all of the good and the bad experiences, as a launch pad to just do better, and do more with all of the resources that I was given. Hi, my name is Miko Branch, and I'm the CEO of Miss Jessie's, the natural hair care brand, and you're listening to Dreams in Drive.
Hey, this is Raina Campbell, your Chief Dream Driver, and welcome to the No Parking Podcast, where through conversations and discussions with creators like yourself, we'll find interesting approaches to help you take your dreams out of park, put them in drive, and ride towards success. Hey, Dream Drivers, welcome to episode 212 of the Dreams and Drive podcast. And I am so excited for you all to hear from this week's guest, Miko Branch. Miko is somebody that I have admired for such a long time, and her brand, Miss Jessie, is an iconic staple in the natural hair movement history, the natural hair community. When her and her sister, Titi Branch, started Miss Jessie's, I doubt they even knew just how big the brand would become. Miko's going to talk about on this episode how she was able to navigate through both failure and success, and why constantly evolving the brand and bringing it to new heights is so important. She's going to talk about how you can do that too for your own dreams. And Miko also pays homage to her late sister, Titi. We're going to honor the lessons that Titi's passing have instilled in Miko, and how the brand will forever have Titi's footprints on it. This is a special episode, and I am so honored that Miko took her time to talk with us today. We also are going to be doing a giveaway this week. If you know Miss Jessie's, the first thing you might probably think of is their iconic, the staple, curly pudding. So to win Miss Jessie's curly pudding for yourself, all you guys have to do is go to dreamsanddrive.com/win. That's dreamsanddrive.com/win. The contest is going to be running all week. So if you want to enter to win a Miss Jessie's curly pudding, just go to dreamsanddrive.com/win. If you love this episode, if you feel like it really impacts you, please share it with a friend, guys. I always get excited when I see you guys sharing on Instagram stories and tagging us, tagging our guests. Continue to do that, and make sure you're following us on social as well. We are Dreams and Drive across the board on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and you can also use the hashtag Dreams and Drive when sharing. All right, let's hear from Miko. Hi, Miko. Welcome to Dreams and Drive.
Hi, Raina. Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks so much for coming on. We were able to chat before. As you guys know, I'm a writer for X on Nicole, and I interviewed you for a piece that I'm working on. But having you on the show, Dreams and Drive now, just means so much to me. And I've been a fan of Miss Jessie's for a long time. So getting to speak to somebody who I admire about how they built their brand is going to be such an amazing blessing.
Thanks so much. Thank you.
So I love to start interviews going back in time, right? I know in your book that you wrote, Miss Jessie's Creating a Successful Business from Scratch Naturally. You talk a lot about your childhood, growing up in Queens, New York. But what if I had to ask you what was inspiring you back then, or what was the dream for young Miko? What would you think little Miko would say?
So back then, when I was growing up in Queens, New York, I really had secret aspirations of having a pink hair salon, which in my family was a bit of a no-no because my mom and dad, I'm sure that they didn't think that a career in the beauty business was something that they wanted to see me do. But that was my dream. And ironically, when I became an older Miko, or a young woman, looking to find out what I wanted to do, ironically, I started working in the beauty business.
Isn't it ironic how sometimes these childhood dreams of ours manifest themselves, and we don't even realize they're manifesting ourselves until they come true, and we're like, oh wow, I wanted to do this when I was a kid.
Yeah, it is really wonderful. And like those thoughts that I had in my mind or those aspirations, they manifested. But I think that that can happen for many of us as it's our natural instinct. It's something that really lives inside us. So to be able to listen to what yourself is telling you is really important when choosing a career.
What were your skills? And I know this might be hard to think back at, but the young Miko, what were you really adept to? Like, what were the things that you were solid at that now you still are?
At a very early age, I was able to identify beauty, and I always had a fascination with how to achieve a look or just a beautiful, finished product. And for that reason, at a very early age, I was always good at hair. It was God's gift, and luckily, my friends allowed me to do their hair. So it wasn't uncommon for me to, for you to get your first relaxer or first press and curl from me. It was just something that I loved and that I enjoyed. And luckily, as I grew older and really started to get serious about my career, luckily I was able to put a price with my talent and make a living and build an empire with my sister.
I was going to say, you must have been really good because I wasn't going to trust any of my friends, even in high school, to do my hair, especially a relaxer or anything like that.
I was really good, and it's kind of like you do one person's hair, you do a good job, then all your friends are asking you, can I be the next one? So I was just, like my problem when I was growing up was, how can I do everyone's hair without being too tired?
You never saw that as a career, though, did you?
I don't know that I did because in my household, I don't think the beauty business was a respected profession and trade. It was just something that I was good at. As a younger Mika, I never thought to put a price on it. It was very satisfying, fulfilling just to see my friends wearing the hairstyles that I did on them, wearing it with pride. But as I began to experience like having to pay rent and having to support myself and having to just provide for myself, it really became apparent that I needed to choose something that I liked and something that I was good at. And for me, it was a no-brainer. It was definitely hair after I graduated from the Fashion Institute of Technology and realized that's not the career that I wanted in fashion.
When it was, and I feel like I don't want to mix this up because I read the book, so I have an understanding of like the different steps that led up to this. But there was a point, I believe, after college where you came back home and you worked with your father or in his cleaning business. And that was like your first foray into entrepreneurship, right?
Pretty much. Before the cleaning business, my sister Titi and I actually had a lemonade and Kool-Aid stand when we were around 7 and 8 years old. And that was a really great experience for us in that from the fruits of our labor, we made $25. We were able to buy our first plastic pool for our backyard. And during that summer, we were able to swim in it. And it was very clear to us that if we worked hard, we could really enjoy all of our hard work.
What do you think that cleaning business experience taught you about what it takes to be successful? So I know it was frustrating at some points, but there also were a lot of lessons learned as well.
Well, the cleaning business was really key in me focusing on what I wanted to do based on what I did not want to do. The lessons that I learned in the cleaning business, they took me all the way forward to where I am now. I was working in a business that I really did not enjoy. There was no passion there. And then also I found my voice in the cleaning business. You see, my father had a very domineering personality, and we were already in the role of father and daughter, so there was already a dynamic in play that really changed once I became, a key player in generating business. And I wanted to be respected and I wanted to be regarded, as someone who was important in the business. And I think it was there that I found my voice and I gained enough courage to be able to identify what I did and did not want to do. as a result, I stopped with the cleaning business and I really focused on doing something that I was passionate about, something that I was good at, and that brought me to my career in beauty.
Oh, and this is the part of the story that I think is just so interesting. So talk to me, Miko, about your first paying client.
So my first paying client was probably along the way. Maybe a girlfriend of mine might have given me a nice little tip or a nice little something for doing her hair. But I remember after working in salons in the city, and I gained enough courage to leave the salon industry and open up my own salon in my house. It was actually a home salon in my living room. I lived in Brooklyn in the downtown area. And my sister Titi and I had a loft. And I remember my first client, her name was Saida Skeet. And she came and she got her hair done. And Saida has the thickest hair on the planet. And I think my nerves were all over the place. And I was making a lot of mistakes because she was my first legitimate client. And it took me forever to do her hair, but I was able to complete it. And Saida remained a customer and a client of ours for years. And to this day, she's remained a good friend. So Saida gave me the confidence and the courage enough to be able to continue on as my own boss doing hair in my house.
In those early days of being a boss and doing hair in your house, how are you going about getting clients? Because this was before social media, right? This was before people were on their phones and posting to the internet. What was that on the ground hustle looking like for you? Because you had rent to pay, you had to make this sustainable.
Yeah, so luckily I had worked in other salons, so, there were clients and customers who already knew my abilities, already knew that they liked my work. So once I left these salons, luckily I was able to stay in touch with some of them, and they had the option to come to my house, and honestly, some of them did, but many of them did not, many of my clients that I met, they were used to getting their hair done on, Lexington Avenue or in, Tribeca. I mean, there was a certain cachet connected to the salons that I was working at and where I met most of these women. But a small group actually did come with me. They liked my work well enough where they were willing to follow me. And then after I, did their hair a couple of times, each one told one and they would get compliments. And from there, I was able to build my business. So, putting, my efforts into doing good work really served me well when it came time to building my business, my salon business from scratch at home.
Did you have dreams of making it more than a one woman show at that point? Because I know your sister Titi also was very instrumental in pushing you, right? How did that dynamic play out during these early days of the salon?
Yeah, so in the early days of my salon when I was a one-woman show, that's all that I needed, and I was quite content. I didn't actually have aspirations to have a big salon or to have a beauty empire. I was quite content. I was a younger Miko. I was in my 20s, and I really enjoyed my time and freedom. I liked being able to wake up late, go to the evening, and then do a little bit of hair. And I was really satisfied and content with being able to pay my portion of the bills because Titi and I lived together. And then I also had extra money for recreation. But it was actually Titi who pushed me to move my home business into our first salon in the Boerum Hill section of Brooklyn. And it was after my sister became my agent, and I was able to do 1 week worth of work with Ashley Stewart, which is a full-size retail chain. I made $8,000, and Titi and I split that $8,000 in half. And Titi thought, you know what, Miko, let's make this move. And that was the beginning of our long-lasting partnership in the beauty business.
How important do you think it is for us to have those people in our corner who are pushing us? Because, I even personally sometimes, right, like even with this podcast, there are people who sometimes can see the vision that you don't often, who can see the future that you may not often see for yourself. When do you think it's good to listen to them Or when is it good to listen to your own instinct?
Well, a combination of both could be beneficial to anyone. I think the sister dynamic that was already in play between my sister and I, it just gave me the confidence to follow Titi's lead when she thought, you know what, Miko, this is what we're doing. In the big sister, little sister dynamic, it was usually Titi who held the key. It was usually who told us what we were going to do next. And me being the younger sister, I followed along. I always knew that my older sister had my best interest in mind. And by then, Titi had enough confidence in my abilities because she was my agent. And Titi would call every single person in New York, and she would try to land me jobs, whether it was doing hair for an ad campaign or doing editorial work. But, like in listening to people, you yourself have to know that that person cares about you. They have your best interest in mind. So when they're making recommendations, you'll at least only have to deal with, is this a good move for me versus, does this person have, all of my interest in the right place? With Titi, those things are already in place. I just had to get up enough courage and confidence because I was actually scared to death to move from the house, which was very comfortable for me, to, a two-chair salon in the public. If you're able to make the distinction between the people who really love and care about you, I definitely think you should, hear what they have to say and listen to their advice or if they have hesitations, also take that into consideration, but also listen to your own voice because you know what you're capable of doing or you know what's good or what's not good. And you really have to be able to make final decisions for yourself because at the end of the day, a person can recommend, they can advise, but if things go to the left, you're going to be the person who is going to be held liable. It's going to be your reputation and not theirs. So I think, if you have good people, you have the best of both worlds and able to really select from good stuff.
Was it scary building out Curve? I think making the shift from doing something in your house versus having a business, having to pay rent, you're public facing, that's a big transition. Like, what were some of the learning curves that literal learning curves that you experienced at Curve?
Yeah, so Curve Salon was our first salon, and it was quite scary for me in that I had already worked in the beauty industry. My sister had not in the same capacity. She represented different talent, photographers, I think a few makeup artists. But Titi had never really experienced the beauty industry the way I had as a stylist. So like my ego and my little reputation, stance and position in my industry was really a big part of me at the time as a younger Miko. So if I failed, that was a lot of just hesitation and a lot of fear, for me as I experienced making the decision. But, in experiencing Curve with Titi, I think that my big sister actually gave me the confidence to let me know that she had me. But we did experience, success in the very beginning, but we also experienced major failure in the very beginning. So, it happened almost immediately, the success, and then the failure and then the failure happened shortly thereafter. And, the success was wonderful. We enjoyed that. But the failure really placed a strain on the relationship that we had as a big sister and little sister. And it also made us refocus our lens in terms of our duties in the partnership. In my crazy mind, I thought that I was going to be able to just style pretty hair all day. But, when you're part of a business, particularly a startup, you both are responsible for all facets of the business. And it was just a memo that I didn't get. But I learned soon that, I can't blame my big sister for the failures. If I'm going to stick around for the successes and enjoy that, then I can't, single-handedly blame my sister for anything had happened or didn't happen. And I decided that I wanted to play a larger role in decision making and an equal role in building the business. And from there, the business changed, and we were able to lick our wounds from our failures in which we lost our business, and we were able to move on and grow from there.
What did you define as failure? Like, what was the thing that from a business perspective led to having to make that shift again?
So from my perspective, like when you open a business and then have to close a business because you failed at the business, from my perspective, that's a failure. And, you know, it's the same way we had our grand opening, we also had a grand closing too. And, you know, rookies in business, we were really just impressed with our own success. We've moved too quickly, and we literally moved 2 blocks up across on the other side of Atlantic Avenue to a place that was 3 times as large. I think it was 3 times the rent. And we didn't have the clientele. We were basing our move on how busy the small salon was, but we didn't take into account that that same clientele needed to be able to fill up and be able to sustain us in the new business. So, you know, that paired up with, you know, poor planning paired with a horrible landlord who just gave teaching us a hard time. He would do things, Raina, like, you know, put wood chips in the locks, you know, so we couldn't
get in. Are you serious?
I'm dead serious. He would put wood chips in our locks where we couldn't get into our building. Or at the time we were doing relaxers in 1997. So he would turn the hot water off in the dead of the winter in New York when we were rinsing out relaxers. So like those kinds of things, you know, we ended up losing that fight. And we had to leave our salon. And luckily, we purchased a brownstone in the Bedford-Stuyvesant section of Brooklyn, and we were able to refuge there and think about our next move.
You were also pregnant at this time as well, right?
I was, and you know, I'm so glad you reminded me of that. I was just thinking about how hard it was to deal with the landlord and to deal with the fact that we didn't have the clientele. So could you just imagine how I felt like as a person already kind of rooted in the beauty industry, watching like my whole industry watch us where no one would come to our salon because we had this big salon and there would be like 1 or 2 people in there. And sometimes, you know, when people see that there's only 1 or 2 people in your salon, then it makes them hesitant. Like, should I go there? You know, it really makes it hard. But yeah, at the time I was pregnant and my boyfriend and I had just broken up, and it was a permanent breakup. I was, you know, very clear that we were breaking up permanently. But I had this really strong connection to, you know, this baby that was in my stomach. And I just, you know, I had to keep him. I had to just see him. And that was such a challenging time for me because I had this connection with my baby, couldn't wait to see him. And it was just having so many challenges here on earth. But I'm just so glad, you know, everything happened for a reason, I guess. And I'm just so glad that I weathered that storm because my son is now 19, and there actually would not be a Miss Jessie as we know it today had he not been born, because I really had to rethink and change my strategy in business and also in my personal look once he came on the scene.
The imagery that comes to mind right now is, you know that song Empire State of Mind? And it's like New York, concrete jungle where dreams are made of. I'm thinking about the roads that grew from concrete, right? How you were in this situation, you moved to Brooklyn, Bed-Stuy, which at that time was not the Bed-Stuy that we know of now, right? Like this cultural mecca that Brooklyn, Bed-Stuy area has now become. It was the Bed-Stuy of the olden days, right? But you have this brownstone, and you and Titi decided to transform it. Talk me through maybe the Cliff Notes version, because there's so much good stuff here. But what do you think was the best part of watching this Miss Jessie's evolve?
Yeah.
How this is like a new beginning for you, for all of you.
Yeah. Everything happens for a reason. And, most of us, when we look in hindsight, we see the picture very clearly. And I think, I know that God played a huge role in all the things that happened. Had we not experienced the failures, had I not experienced the challenge of becoming a single parent, Titi and I would have never experienced first of all, purchasing the brownstone, because we purchased the brownstone, out of necessity. We had a big tax bill and we wanted to be able to write some of that money off. So we purchased a brownstone. Thank God we did, because when we got kicked out of our salon after a long battle, that's where we refuged. But, when I look back, in purchasing that brownstone became our fortress. We had around 4 floors. Well, we had 5 floors. We had the 4 floors, and then we had a basement, and we literally worked every single floor. I lived on one floor, Titi lived on another, I did hair on another, and then we made products on the first floor. And then after we outgrew that, we moved products, the production of making products, to the basement, and then we moved customer service to the first floor. So we worked every single square inch of that building in order to build our business from scratch. And thank God we own that piece of property, because we were able to do things, as we saw fit. We were able to make changes as we saw fit. We were able to make those adjustments as our business grew. And then we were also able to go back to the thinking board when we made a mistake or did something improper, but that brownstone turned out to be the very thing that protected us while we were building Miss Jessie's, and we would not have been able to do it had it not been for that structure, and also had it not been for the pressure of having to pay the mortgage and the pressure of me becoming a single parent. We wouldn't have had to think outside the box had we not had all those elements happening at us during that time.
What I find really interesting from your story is I feel like it's a constant evolving, right? And a lot of times when I call it dream driving, when we're on these journeys, we are so scared of what's next, but not realizing that sometimes what's next comes to us. And you creating the product line, Miss Jessie's, was also like a natural evolution. Talk to me about that, because, Miss Jessie's is now a household name. Do you remember the point where you and Titi said, hey, why don't we sell products that we make instead of, using other people's products?
It was a natural progression, and it was actually bath time in that brownstone. I would give my son baths on the 4th floor. I was a single parent, and, as he just started getting stronger, he would splash all around, water would hit his hair, and I really love wearing my hair straight. But I could no longer do it because I really wanted to be in his life in a meaningful way. And then at the same time, I would have to run down to the 2nd floor to do hair. So something had to give, and my clients had to see my hair in this half frizzy state. On the ends, it would be relaxed, and the roots, I didn't get a touch up. I was trying to wear it kind of like frizzy and embrace it. And ironically, it started a conversation where my customers and clients would ask me how I got my hair like this. And I couldn't imagine, how my hairstyle would be aspirational to anyone, but I knew this is our opportunity. We had just failed in our business, in the Borum Hill section of Brooklyn. And I had always been a good hairstylist, so I quickly became an expert at curly hair. But, at the time, Raina, there were no Miss Jessie's in Target and Walmart and Walgreens. So I couldn't run up there, run into these stores and get the products that perform. So what we had to do was we had to use stuff that was on the market that some of them worked, some of them didn't. So there was a big gap. Luckily, my sister and I growing up, we were able to spend time with our grandmother on our father's side. Her name was Miss Jessie. Her name was Jessie May Branch. And she happened to be a wonderful cook, but she also happened to be the CEO of our family. So she would tell all of her grandkids what to do, and you just couldn't Miss Jessie without helping her. My grandmother was a woman with one arm, but she was so independent. So, at my grandmother's kitchen table, we got a chance to witness like our first female CEO, our grandmother, Miss Jessie. But we also partook in, making delicious foods. And she was very, very sure about the preparation. She wanted this amount of flour. She wanted this amount of sugar. She wanted it mixed a particular way. And then we would also see the finished product, how beautiful the cake looked, how beautiful the, Thanksgiving meal looked. And then we saw how it delighted people, our family, and they were able to really enjoy the love that she prepared. So it was that experience that we were able to tap into when it came time for us to tap into that independent spirit, tap into that skill set of being great mixers and great cookers. So what was not available at Target, Walmart, and Walgreens, we actually made it ourselves. And we tested it on our customers inside our Brooklyn brownstone. And luckily, our clients loved it so much that they would call us back and ask us, what did you use in our hair? It was actually Titi who thought sampling and giving our customers samples of the product was the key. And that made our customers want more, so that we were creating the demand. And soon people started ringing our phones just for a jar of Curl Magic. And that Curl Magic at the time was called Curly Pudding.
Your signature product that you guys still sell today.
We still sell to this day, and that product was groundbreaking because for us, when I'm talking about the curl, the tighter coil curl, the curl that typically had an African heritage in terms of its circular dimensions and in terms of its elasticity, there was nothing on the market for her. And matter of fact, Raina, many of us who were born with this, naturally coily texture, we didn't even know what God gave us because we were so busy trying to straighten and relax our hair, including myself. So, could you imagine marketing to a group of women, at the time who didn't even know that they had curly hair?
So I can't. I really, I'm trying to imagine, how did you do it?
We were focusing, we were quickly, just becoming real experts in the styling techniques. And once we created like the curly pudding and then the curly meringue and then the curly buttercream and then the baby buttercream, we had pretty much had the tools we needed to now show the world. So what we did was, from our website, we put up before and after pictures. And at the time, women were chatting we called them chat rooms at the time. And someone would come and get their hair done. And then they would show the before and after pictures. And then we would show before and after pictures. And then before the word viral was a word in the early 2000s, our website just went viral. And then the next thing you know, there wasn't enough appointments to satisfy the demand. So it was a combination of good work, doing something that was innovative, doing something that was beneficial to the end client, and then also the combination of the internet really was our formula for success.
Why was guarding the dream at that time also very important? Because you were creating products that were revolutionary. Nobody else was doing it. And I know in the book you talk a lot about how your neighbors would be like, what's going on in there? When you'd have the post office guy come in, and you guys would have all these orders going out. Why were you so strict about making sure that you were guarding the dream or protecting the dream, I should say?
Well, Tisha and I, it was very clear to us that what we were doing, what we were making was important. What we were doing and what we were making wasn't done anywhere before. So we were very, very protective and aware of our intellectual property, of our techniques. In our minds, we believe that we created these things. We hadn't seen them anywhere before. No one was talking about being a specialist in curly hair for primarily women with a tighter coil curl. Why? Because she didn't even know she existed. And everywhere we turned, we didn't see evidence of it from the products that were being offered. And no one really understood that we truly do have curly hair. So with that in mind, we were being very protective and even secretive about what we were doing because we understood that we were a small business. And if, some of the larger companies got wind of it, they might take our baby from us before we got a chance to really just perfect it and call it our own.
And, in thinking about all that you guys did from that point of just having the Miss Jessie's idea, and now it's available in all these different retail stores, you guys are a household brand. What do you think were some of the steps that other creatives, other entrepreneurs, what do you think were some of the steps that you guys took in those days to take it from an idea to something that could be scaled? Because a lot of times we never get to that point where we're able to build from this small idea. What were some of the major things that you and Titi and the Miss Jessie's team did during those days?
Well, some of the early lessons, particularly the failures, were still open wounds for us. Mm-hmm. Experience a shift in our relationship from big sister, little sister to equal sisters and equal partners. It was still really raw to us. We'd lost our business from growing too fast. If you remember, we grew too fast and we lost everything. And it came during a time when I was pregnant and we didn't know if we were going to be able to hold on to our brownstone. So because that experience was still raw and fresh and real in our minds, by the time Target called us in 2009, we understood growing too fast was something that we would never do again. And, by the time Target called us, people started really, really using the product, really loving the product. So, if Target had 1,700 stores, we decided going into 200 stores, as a test would be the best way for us to scale our business. A lot of people don't realize when you get the call from a large retailer like a Target or a Walmart, it costs, although you're going to be making money, it also costs a ton of money to do business with them. Now we have to make, a gazillion jars of curly pudding in order to support the new business relationship. So we kind of had, that bad experience that was really fresh in our mind, and we decided that we never wanted to experience that again. So we took baby steps. And after we did the 200 stores and, it was clear to us that you guys were going to support us and buy our products, because it was more readily available, then we grew into 400 stores and then, so on and so on and so on. Believe it or not, Target, Target, and I'm using them as a metaphor. When I say Target, I mean large retailers. They have competitors too. So when Target's doing something that's successful and they're bringing two girls in who are selling products off the shelf, they couldn't keep it on the shelf, then, Walmart calls. And then CVS calls, and then Sally's calls, and all those kinds of things happen because everyone wants to be able to, get a slice of the pie. And that's pretty much how it happened to us and happened for us, in that because we didn't go to business school, we learned from our lessons and we focused on making good product and doing good service. And you guys stopped relaxing your hair. So much that we believe that it made the large retailers dig a little bit deeper to find out what was going on, so much that they called us and they invited us into the store.
A lot of it is timing, right? Do you think that Miss Jessie's helped help that phenomenon in a way? Because it's, for me, I've always been natural my entire life. Like, my mom never permed my hair when I was younger. So sometimes I think I have a bad reference point for when people stop relaxing, because I've always been natural. Why do you think that shift was so important when women, especially Black women, stop using relaxers?
Well, I think, to answer the first part of your question, Titi and I, we played a huge role, in the ultimate change and decision and shift, that you're talking about, for women to now prefer to wear their hair in its natural state. Mind you, when Titi and I first started out, we were marketing to a very small group of women who didn't even know that they had curly hair. And then that group of women, which, eventually extended into men and to kids, it grew bigger and bigger. But I think, Titi and I, like the efforts in the early days of us doing things like going against the rules of stylists and salons, where the name of our game is to not tell our customers and clients, our secrets or our styling techniques. And why? Because we want you to come back and be reliant on us for your every 2-week visit, every week visit, that kind of thing. But what we realize in that brownstone is that, our discovery about natural and curly hair and what God gave us and the versatility that it presented was far too big of a secret to keep to ourselves, including my sister and I. We may have been told, and I'm talking about all of us, that our hair was maybe bad and not good. And Titi and I thought, wow, if we had a jar of curly pudding growing up, maybe we would have loved our hair, maybe a little bit more or a lot more. And we thought that this secret and this revelation was just too important. So we shared our styling techniques. We told people how to do it. And this is before YouTube. We used to send out these sheets with every jar of curly pudding, with step-by-step instruction. And then we, when we got a website, we shared that information and we taught women how to care for their hair, so much that you guys are much better at it than we are now, And that secret, and when, that secret was it was too big to keep, So when I see women like Michelle Obama on the cover of a magazine wearing her natural hair, when I see Oprah embracing her natural texture, I know, Titi and I, our efforts weren't in vain, and it just makes me smile on the inside and out to know that, not only are we embracing our hair and its texture, but we're getting a much better relationship with ourselves, because I believe that the hair may have been the gateway to the steps for us to just begin to love ourselves and all that God created and how He created us.
Miko, one of the things that I think it's really interesting, and I was surprised when I read the book about how candid you were about this, is, sometimes the negative part of, well, not negative, but the challenging part of doing business and building a business with family, right? Like there can be a lot of positives, but sometimes there can be negatives as well. What was it like for you navigating the time in the Miss Jessie's history where you and Miko kind of had a falling out? What were some of the lessons there that you learned? And then how did it feel when you guys were able to come back together?
Oh my God. Well, first of all, it felt so good to come back together because not only during the time Titi and I were having a hard time, we were not able to do business together, but we weren't friends at the time. You have to understand the closeness and the relationship we had as sisters. In New York, everyone knew us as Titi and Miko, or Miko and Titi. Why? Because we were always together. So to be apart from Titi, for an extended time, it just felt like, my arm was cut off. And I missed her, and I was just really devastated when we had to part. And, that was like on the personal side. But on the business side, I really got a chance to see my own strength. I didn't have my big sister to fall back on. And I had to take my hairstyling business to Washington, D.C. And I still had to feed my son. And I had to just do things on my own. And honestly, Raina, when I look back, at the time I was like, oh my God, this is so grueling. This is so hard. But when I look back, I see God and Titi was preparing me for now. While Titi is no longer with us in her physical, with her physical presence, Titi was preparing me to be independent, and she was preparing me, and God was preparing me too, to be able to operate in her absence. And although we were apart and although I missed her and although I was so mad at her, I learned skills that I'm still using to this day, whether I'm having, a problem with my employees or I'm having a problem with my partners. I really have learned to gain the confidence in myself to be able to make things happen. And I would not have gained that had Titi and I not had the challenges that we had.
Yeah, and I think that's so important. A lot of us sometimes when we get these roadblocks, we would want to give up. But you could have easily said, "All right, I'm not going to do hair anymore. I'm just going to like pick up, use my talents for something else." But you kept going, and it's funny how because you kept going, it led you back to where you wanted to be. Does that make sense to you?
It makes a lot of sense. There were so many times when I was so tired because Titi is a tough fighter, My sister was not playing with me, and also she's my oldest sister. So, my sister knew how to really just jam me up where she wanted to. And I felt every bit of it. But, I stood in there, I hung in there, and I got a chance to, again, just kind of test and see my own strength. And I hung in there so much that I was able to be around for the reunion, for us to reunite and for us to hug it out. And thank God I did hold on, because had I not, I don't know where Titi and I would have been, in terms of our relationship or in terms of our business. And then also, like I told you, Raina, had I not held on, it wouldn't have given me the training that I needed to hold on, once my sister passed away in 2014.
I couldn't imagine. And it's funny because I'm saying this because I think sometimes you never know how important somebody is sometimes until they're not here for you to tell them. And looking back now, what do you think Titi would be most proud about, what you've been able to accomplish since her passing and all that you guys are doing with Miss Jessie's today?
Oh my God. I think I might say this every day, once a day, because I'm amazing myself. I really, really do think that my sister she's cheering me on, and oh my God, she's so proud of me, She knows that I didn't forget any of the lessons that she taught me. She knows that I'm using all of the good and the bad experiences, as a launch pad to just do better, and do more with all of the resources that I was given. I think Titi has definitely seen a maturation process in me. And I think that she is definitely there guiding and protecting me. Funny enough, after Titi died, not only was she my partner, not only was she my co-parent for my son, Titi also was my protector. And I've found that since she hasn't been here, many, like many demons or many bad people have just kind of surfaced, and many of which I didn't even know were bad. And I think, lack of her presence, I have been tried and tested in so many ways that I hadn't imagined. But Titi is protecting me, she's guiding me, but she's also really, I believe she's really proud of everything that I'm doing. And, when I try to do things, I certainly say, what would Titi do, And it's areas where I, implement, a little bit of Titi or even a lot of Titi, I definitely get a wink from her. And she really likes that I remembered her style.
Thank you for sharing that. I think it's so important. I love that within this story, you make sure that she's not left out of it, right? Because sometimes it can be easy for people to write out. I'm not saying easy, but I think sometimes when people are no longer here, other people who aren't part of it can easily write her out. But I love that in the book, she's such an important force in it, and even in this interview today. So I would definitely want to honor her. Although I've never met her, I just know how important she was in your life.
Oh yeah, Titi. First of all, I couldn't X her out even if I wanted to. Her fingerprint, is just so it's so apparent. Many of us, because of Titi, wouldn't have the tools that we need in order to, style our hair or just to even start the self-love process again. If it weren't for Titi, Titi really loved everyone, and she wanted the best for all of us. So when anyone picks up a jar of Miss Jessie's or a tube, they're definitely experiencing Titi. And I'm a product of Titi. My sister raised me, and she taught me so much. So I'm a proud student of Titi. So she lives through me, and I'm just happy to have experienced the time that I did while she was here on Earth.
And you two, when I think of the Miss Jessie's brand, I think of the word innovators, right? You guys were leading the path, and now there's so many beauty, hair care brands that are trying to solve some of the initial problems that you guys identified. For other dream drivers who may not even be in the beauty space, why do you think trying to be an innovator is so important? Or is it important, I should say?
Well, it all depends on how you look at it. I think at the time, Titi and I weren't trying to be innovators. We were trying to be, solution givers, and then at the same time, we were really trying to survive. So I think Titi and I had a nice balance of trying to create just an income for ourselves, doing it, in a good way. And then also, being helpful to a large group of which at the time were primarily women who didn't know that they had natural and beautiful curly hair. So I think, not putting the focus on trying to be a leader or trying to get the accolades or be, innovators was key in us eventually actually turning out to be pioneers and innovators because, when there was nothing in the market, we created it ourselves and we did it in a particular way. We did it in a unique way, whether, it was the naming of, hair products for curly hair after like delicious foods. We got that from our experience with our grandmother. Now you're not a player out here in this very competitive industry unless you, have a food reference, whether it be a milkshake, whether it be a meringue, a pudding, a buttercream, a custard, all of those kinds of things actually came from our experience with our grandmother. So, it's really wonderful to be a pioneer and it's really wonderful to be an innovator. But I think, probably most innovators and pioneers have become that because their focus was more in the right place in terms of solving a problem or being helpful.
In 2019, then, Miko, what is the biggest business challenge that you now, as a CEO, head of Miss Jessie, what's the thing that keeps you up at night when it comes to the business? Because I'm guessing the challenges must have been different than it was in 2009 when the retail game started for you.
I think keeping people around me that, have a nice balance of being decent people, while at the same time, being able to conduct business, and for me, Miss Jessie's is not just, a money-making business venture. It's also a lifestyle. It's also part of my legacy. It's part of my sister's legacy. So, whether it's the employees, whether it's the partners, I'm still looking for the right partners. I think sometimes it's been a bit challenging to find the right people or, the good people, in order to continue to conduct business. I think that's been my challenge. I think trust has also become a huge, huge factor. But at the end of the day, I'm still blessed with a wonderful company. And I think with a little bit more fine tuning, I'll get, the team and the tribe that I'm looking for as it relates to the business and growing it.
If you could say anything to a dream driver who is struggling with pushing go on their dreams, right? They have this big idea, but they're just really nervous to get started. What would you say to motivate them?
I would say now with, this wonderful tool that we have of the internet, I would say definitely do your research and, find out as much as you can about what you want to do. And then I would encourage you to just do it. And in the doing of it, there's so many lessons. There's so much wisdom in that process where you'll be able to quickly identify them and then figure out what you don't want to do the next go around. I respect, textbook learning. I respect, going to school and degrees, but I definitely think that there's a lot to be said about actually experiencing the transactions, actually experiencing making something or being part of the process of building, when it comes to your business. I think not only does it build the business, not only is there wisdom in the experiences, but, there's also like character building while you're building business. It's hard to separate the two sometimes. And you'll definitely get a chance to get to know yourself better when you see how you respond and react to some of the challenges that business will present to you. Because many times when business presents challenges, it's largely connected to other people. So you get a chance to see, your values or your decision making. Quite interesting process to see yourself and, what you really are and how you're really made.
I think some people fear the tactical part of business, and that's probably the easiest. Like you can figure that stuff out, but it's the actual mindset. It's making sure that you have the mental fuel, the mental energy, the emotional capacity to be able to handle everything. That's the tough part, at least for me as well. The tactical things, you can figure it out. You can outsource those things, but it's actually getting up every day and continue to believe in yourself. Like what now, Miko, for you? What's part of your self-care look like? How do you make sure that you are keeping Miko fueled?
Well, I've become very protective of my personal time, and then also like my professional time. I've really become quite selective of who I'm around and also who's around me. I've become quite selective because I realize that thoughts and words and intentions, they manifest. And if you have the wrong people around you, or, if you're around the wrong people, eventually that's going to chip away. So being selective in the energy and who is around me has become really important. That's number one. And then after I get the right group of people around me, I tend to be able to express love freely, whether it means, cook a nice meal for the people that I love and just really care for and just show people how thankful and how honored I am to be in the presence of kind human beings. I think that has given me the most joy. I love chocolate, so I get a chance to eat a piece of it every day. And then also, just seeing my son. My son is a young man, so he's going through all of the changes and milestones of becoming a young man. And sometimes it's nerve-wracking for me, but, he's turned out to be just like a really nice human being that I like, that I'm proud of, and that brings me joy. And just also sticking close to my family. And ironically, and most of the time, although I had, an opportunity to have a baby, I really have never had a chance to be like in a long-term relationship because Titi and I were building our business. We were like creating this product and so on and so on. So I got a chance to reunite with my first kiss and my first boyfriend. And he is in my life and in my son's life. And I just feel so fortunate to be able to be in the presence of just a wonderful human being. And we do things like walk and talk and laugh and reminisce. And he's like become the brother that Titi and I didn't get a chance to grow up with. So I feel fortunate for like the little but the big things that I have. And I'm just glad to still be here to be able to talk about it.
This conversation has just been so refreshing. And it just makes me realize that everything that we go through, it's meant for us to go through, right? And there's so much that we learn through good and bad. As you said earlier, Miko, sometimes your failures lead you to your biggest successes, right?
Yeah.
What's next? Do you ever, let me rephrase that. Do you like the question, what's next? And if not, how do you view the future?
Well, right now I'm creating my future, so with this wonderful business and also with this life that God gave me and with the wonderful training that I've had all along to get me up to where I am now. The what's next has been in the making. So, I've been passed, like wonderful, wisdom and tools and experiences have been passed down to me. So I'm able to really take it from here and, have the influence and all the things that have been given to me, but also, just add my spice to it, and do things my way. And, intuitively, I've been able to steer and direct Miss Jessie's in a forward motion, despite all that's happened. Miss Jessie's continues to grow, and the unbreakable bond that was established with our customer continues to live on. So, what's next for Miss Jessie? There's a whole bunch more beauty products for sure. And I think people also want to hear about, my evolution as a businesswoman. How have I changed, or my philosophy is still the same? What are my experiences like, after the first book? So for that reason, I'm still working on my second book. So, that's to come too. But I'm just continuing to build a strong brand that's still privately owned. I have more work to do and not finished yet.
And we will be giving away a curly pudding. What can our listeners, like, what's those curly pudding? What can they get when they use the curly pudding? Maybe you can give them a little sneak peek and encourage them to enter the giveaway.
So curly pudding is a special product in that it was our first product to market. It was the game changer. It was the thing that changed it all. Not only was it the first hairstyling product of its kind for curly, kinky, and wavy hair, but it also played a role. It was the gateway to women really starting to just restore and rebuild, maybe esteem that had been lost. But in terms of the performance of curly pudding, it's purple. It smells yummy. It's a cream consistency. It'll turn any kink to a curl. The definition on curly pudding is crazy. It has a nice mix of rich oils, and then also a nice hold factor. And it's reliable. When you put curly pudding in your hair, you don't have to worry that it's going to frizz up or kick up. It really does all the right things in all the right places. So you got to try our first product, curly pudding, which is going to be now available in a tube.
Oh, and is it good for just wash and goes, or is it better you can also style it on dry hair?
Oh my God, curly pudding you can use both ways. You can do a wash and go, you can do a double strand twist, you could do a wet twist, you could do a dry twist, you could do a braid out, you could use it on weaves. You could pretty much use curly pudding on anything. It's just so good. You just have to just kind of measure the amount of product you use, whether your hair and texture is fine, you just use a lesser amount, or if your hair is thick, and coily, you use more. But definitely play around with curly pudding. There are no chemicals in curly pudding, and it's not going to permanently alter your hair. Definitely try it. This was Titi's baby. This was the product that Titi stayed up late at night, to fool and just, I was the sister with the baby, so I would have to go to bed after a certain time after I did hair. But Titi actually stayed up and she cracked the nut for curly pudding. And this is one of the things that she's most proud of. So get a jar.
And you can go to dreamsanddrive.com/win to enter that giveaway. Okay, so Miko, last question. You cannot be a dream driver without having your keys to success. So what do you think are 3 things that every dream driver needs in their toolkit before they hit the road?
You need to have confidence in yourself, whether you did it right or did it wrong. You need to be able to forgive yourself in the event that you did something wrong. And then you also need to surround yourself around people who love you. And then also you need to always give yourself a big hug and tell yourself and remind yourself how much you love yourself while you're building your dreams.
Thank you so much, Miko. Can you tell our dream drivers where they can find Miss Jessie's online if they want to connect with the brand or even connect with you?
Okay, so if you want to connect with Miss Jessie's, we are on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and we're Miss MISS_Jessie's, JESSIES. I'm on Twitter and Instagram. I do talk back, so if you want to follow me, I'm simply Miko Branch, and I'm on Twitter and Instagram.
All right, so that's a wrap for episode 212 with Miko Branch. I hope you enjoyed hearing her dream driving journey as well as her keys to success. Remember, we are doing a giveaway with Miss Jessie's this week. So if you want to enter to win one of Miss Jessie's iconic products, curly pudding, just go to dreamsanddrive.com/win. That's dreamsanddrive.com/win to enter. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend. You can send the episode via Instagram stories, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, wherever. Just share it with your own community. I think the best thing you can do if you're inspired, if you're impacted, is to move it and to pay it forward. Remember, we are Dreams and Drive across the board on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, so make sure you're following us on social, and don't be afraid to say hi. I'm in the comments, I'm in the DMs all the time, so I love to engage with you guys and see how you are experiencing and enjoying the show. If you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, please make sure that you leave a rating and review. Those ratings and reviews really mean a lot to us and help us reach more people, and also help people figure out if this show is for them. So your feedback is always appreciated. And wherever you're listening, please make sure that you are subscribed so that you get notifications every time we have a new episode. One last reminder, guys, if you want to make sure that you're part of our email newsletter, The Keys, it goes out once a week every Wednesday. Go to dreamsanddrive.com/join. That's dreamsanddrive.com/join. I do a lot of exclusive announcements on the newsletter only for our online community. So if you want to be part of that and make sure you're not missing anything, go and sign up right now. All right, keep dreaming, keep driving, and we'll chat again in episode 213. Bye, guys.